Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Inside the Score, where we talk about score breakdowns of original music, mock-ups, and so on. Today we're going to be talking about a new adventure. So this is a track I recently wrote, inspired by the Nintendo games Super Mario Odyssey and Super Mario Galaxy. If you don't know these games, I would definitely recommend you checking them out. They have that very cinematic orchestral flavor to them that I really enjoy. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to play through it once, and then we will talk about the individual elements that comprise the track. So enjoy. Okay, so there we go. That is the track. Let's talk about the individual elements of it and what makes it sound that cinematic and gives it that flavor. So let's start off with the percussion here. Let me just scroll in just a little bit. Okay, cool. So most of the percussion you can see it's in the introduction. So the bombastic mood comes right off the bat. So let me just quickly solo these and let's just give them a quick listen. Right. And then in verse 2, we have mainly just the toms ensemble and the snare. And then finally the snare comes back in the chorus. It drops out in the bridge. Okay? So I really like this toms patch. It's actually both the toms patch, the snare, and the rims, I believe. They're all from Metropolis Arc 3. These are exceptional patches recorded in a Teledeck studio, which I really love the sound of. So let's just hear the toms first. Dun, 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 dun. A very standard, predictable rhythm. So now with the snare added in, it fills in those very tiny gaps. With the rims, now you start to get the marching band feel, right? And yeah, okay. So then we have the traditional orchestral crashes, the timpani hits, and the timpani rolls are the only tonal elements in this percussion section. Sorry. And then the low drum ensemble just gives each downbeat a bit of weight. So soloed. I believe this is a patch using Metropolis Arc 1, if I'm not mistaken. Right, so that bit of weight there. And then we have the marching drum on the bottom, just to double some of those downbeats to give it that extra bit of oomph, okay? So that's it for the percussion section, nothing too complicated. Now we have the strings, and I think one of the elements that makes Hollywood music so classic is the ostinato. So the violin ostinatos, string ostinatos in general, are really just an iconic move for Hollywood composers. So this is the Berlin Strings Playable Runs patch. So you can't really hear it that clearly on its in the mix, but it does lend itself to that momentum and gives it that motion. And same thing in the second verse when the brass come in. Let's take it out. Add it back in. So you can very slightly hear the difference. It does make it slightly more energetic, okay? And the bass sustains, really just outlining the very bottom in the intro, the lowest frequencies here. Right? Okay. Oh yeah. Nice oomph there. These are Berlin strings, all right? And then, actually most of these are Berlin strings. I think the only thing that's not is the cello tremolo, which is from Cinematic Studio Strings. Speaking of which, let's talk about that really quickly. Actually, I don't know why this is here. It should actually be up here because this is where it starts. So in the bridge, we have the oboe solo, right? And then you can hear that coming in. So I'll just solo the cello here. There we go. So just a little bit of modulation there, just to let it swell into the chorus. Right? So there we go. Okay, back up here. So we have the cello spiccato. Now, the cello spiccato actually gives it, the intro, a lot of movement. Here, I'll just play it itself. Right? So in the context of the whole mix. I would say that's one of the biggest momentum providers there. And then we have a little bit in the bridge here. Without it, then it's just the oboe and the harp. With it, we still have that nice string element there. And then in the chorus, it comes back, or sorry, it continues, okay? The whole ensemble outlines the beginning, gives it some lush chords. Okay. And they come back in the chorus. And let me play this with the violin melody. So without it, it's just a melody, right? With it, we're giving the harmony, and then we're filling in the middle. And then the rest of this is kind of self-explanatory. The runs, violin runs, I believe this is from Sinistrings Runs. Let's just take a look. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Oh no, I think that is Berlin Strings Runs actually. This one down here is Sinistrings Runs. Right here. Yep, so there's that one. Very traditional major ascending scale. And this one's just the 1 octave ascending scale. And let's just hear that in context. Right, so there's that Hollywood flavor again. I really like the harp. The harp comes from Cineharps, from Cinesamples. And this one, I literally just picked up the glissandi patch and found the one that sounded the best to me and then just went with it. So this is what it sounds like on its own. So it's very nice cinematic sound there. And now let me play it in context. So you can hear that tiny little strum at the end of the intro there, and then going into the bridge. Right, so all the way down, and in solo. Right, it just makes sense, you know, going into a calmer section. And finally, coming out, we have the exact same glissando as we did at the very beginning. So that's that for that, okay. What else to talk about? The harp pluck is literally just playing the harp plucks on the keyboard. So I think I literally just picked harp 1 from the patch list. Okay, cool. Let's continue. Now we have the brass section. So the Cinebrass Ensemble Sustains is part of the new update, I believe. It's really useful. So here I used it just to outline the chords in the very beginning in the intro and to give it that extra oomph that it really needs. Okay, let's just see if it plays in solo. Cool, a little mod at the end just to give it that rise. Let's move on. Now this here is basically just to support the strings as it's playing the melody. Right, so you can see that there. Into the bridge, we have the brass helping the music lead out of the bridge. Soloed. So there's that. Then we have the 12-horn ensemble. This is one of the 2 moving brass parts in this section. So we have the horns and the trumpets. And the trumpets. Sony sound is incredible. Great. And then here we have the trumpet ensemble again, playing the main melody along with 2 6-horns patches. So the trumpet, the first one here is the main melody, of course, the trumpet. And then the bottom one here is the doubling of the melody, and this one here is the harmony patch. Or sorry, the harmony line. And then we have these additional patches just to layer in and give that extra bite as needed. So if we just play that one patch by itself, this one right here, let me take out the rest. Sorry. Right, so on its own it sounds not so good, but layered in it helps the trumpets cut through the mix. And that patch is from Metropolis Arc 1. Okay, and that's it. Oh, by the way, we also have the horn ensemble legato here, which is technically not actually, it's, I forgot to rename this. It's actually the, actually, let me see. Sorry, this is a horn ensemble, but it's not legato, it's a staccato patch, or staccatissimo. Should have renamed that. Right, so that gives it that bit of movement while the chorus is playing. Great, and now we get to my favorite section of the orchestra, the woodwinds. And this is the piccolo runs, and we have some flute runs here as well. These are both from the Berlin Woodwinds Playable Runs patches. And then some flute trills. Cool. So yeah, these are all recorded in the Teldec studio. Cool. Okay, next we have the solo oboe, which I'll save for last. We have two more patches here to talk about. We have the bassoon staccatissimos and the scale runs. These are both from Cinesample's Hollywood Winds. The reason you hear those timbral differences is due to the velocity that I'm playing it in. And by the way, guys, this is right out of the box. I didn't have to tweak any settings to get the sound. The scale runs here. Let's see. So there's that one there, which is very nice. And the same one at the end. Let me just play that one by itself. Beautiful. Cool. Okay, and oh yes, I'll talk about these ones as well. But the solo oboe is from Berlin Woodwinds Expansion B, and again, very little tweaking here. All I did was literally play it in, put in some modulation, and it was good to go. Beautiful tone. So that's that. And you probably heard that there were quite a bit of legato transition sounds there from the clicking of the keys and such. So those are things that you can also alter in the GUI of the patch. Okay, finally we have wind chords and a female choir. So the wind chords, you can probably guess what those are. So they're just playing just to give it that harmonic support in the second half of the chorus. Right? And one of my favorites, the dancing wind. This is in Hollywood Winds as well. You don't really hear this pattern while the music's playing, but it's there. You know what they say, whatever sounds good is good. And finally we have a female choir. Whoever can guess where this patch is from gets a prize. That's it. That is a new adventure. So thank you so much for joining me on this first episode of Inside the Score. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks very much.